Hey guys, welcome to the video version of the Marketing Muscle Podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Morris, and I am a marketing and branding strategist. I absolutely love helping business owners, entrepreneurs, and innovators reach their most desired audiences with strategic, effective, and relevant communication strategies. So I hope you'll join me as we share some of the interviews for our podcast and the video version of them. So we're going to dive right in and we're going to talk about all things marketing, branding, and communication strategies. So just a little bit about who we are and what we do. We build fabulous websites, social media strategies, and email marketing funnels. And for the more adventurous clients, I offer coaching, seminars, and fractional CMO services. But for right now, all roads lead to the Marketing Muscle Podcast video version. So let's dive in. All right. Well, welcome, Tish, to the Marketing Muscle Podcast. I'm so glad that you are here today. I'm excited about our conversation.
Thank you, Vicki. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, you and I have known each other for a while. We actually met working on a project for a mutual client. It was a great friend of ours and supported the different things that we're doing. And you and I have just kind of kept in touch over the years. I've done some things with your organization to help your clients. I believe it was a presentation on email marketing that we did a while ago, which was a lot of fun. And I'm glad to be able to have you here today talking about nonprofits. And I know this is one aspect of the things that you do, but when in my work, I find that this nonprofit discussion is one that deserves a topic all on its own. So I'm happy to have you here and talk about this aspect of your business. So first, tell me, how do you view nonprofits and how are they different and how are they similar to for-profit businesses with the ones that you're working with?
Okay, thanks, Vicki. Actually, it's a big difference between nonprofits and for-profits. Nonprofit organizations and for-profits, they differ in their primary goals and how they allocate their resources in most cases. Nonprofits, as the name suggests, they operate for the sole purpose other than generating a profit. And its mission is typically focusing on addressing social, public concerns such as charitable, humanitarian, or educational objectives. And instead of distributing profits to owners and shareholders, nonprofits typically reinvest their surplus funds back into the mission. And they are, in most cases, very dependent on donations, grants, and government funding to sustain their operations. On the other hand, for-profit organizations, their primary objective is to generate profit for its owners or its shareholders, and its activities are primarily geared toward maximizing financial returns. So profits are typically distributed among shareholders or reinvested back into the business to foster growth. So two totally different types of entities.
Right. And how would you say that they are the same? This is in terms of what I do in terms of marketing for a nonprofit or for-profit. My job for them is very much the same, but a lot of nonprofit owners and, well, not so owners, but organizers see it a little bit differently from the start. How do you differentiate that aspect of it and how they are organized?
I think they're absolutely totally different. I don't really put them in the same category at all. But if I had to say how are they the same, typically they're going to have a foundation that has a general mission, what they're working toward to accomplish.
Okay. All right. Well, that is a good clarification. When I've worked with nonprofits, they do have a different mindset. And those of us who are in service-based businesses working with for-profit and nonprofit businesses, I think this is a good discussion for us to embark on and listen to and glean information from. Because there are some nuanced differences, some that are nuanced and some that are just, colossal, just night and day different. But just understanding that and understanding where the nonprofit organization is coming from, what their purpose is, and how they are serving the community can look very different than a for-profit organization. So that is one of the reasons why I'm glad we're having this discussion. So what are some of the myths that you hear people talking about nonprofits, or the people in general believe about nonprofits, and that maybe some nonprofit organizers have themselves about how they go about doing business?
There's two myths particularly that I want to discuss. And one is myth number one: nonprofits can't make a profit. That is a myth. Nonprofits can make a profit, but typically that nonprofit will reinvest the surplus funds back into the mission, as I mentioned previously. And the profits that they make off of donation, grants, and government funding are typically to sustain their operations. So they typically invest back into the mission off their profits.
Okay. All right. Great distinction. Great distinction. So you help, you do a lot to help nonprofits seek and acquire funding. What is your process to match the nonprofit organization or leader with the best funding options? Because I'm sure that can be a lot of different options and a lot of work to find those funding options and then to secure those funding options. What is that process like for you guys?
So we typically start with the nonprofit by taking them through a very, very detailed assessment where we're gaining a lot of information about the organization. We go through that in detail and develop a check sheet, basically, that's going to be every possible thing that I can think of that a grantor is going to ask that nonprofit. So that nonprofit will have a certain period to provide this information. We work very close with the nonprofits on being able to have that assessment feedback in a very strong package. And we work from their needs and what they have specifically going on as a nonprofit at the area and the stage that they are in their development. And we take it from there.
Yeah, I know one of the things that I do in my business, I work with clients to help them figure out who their ideal client is. And we build their marketing strategy and all of the things from that information, who their ideal client is, what kind of solutions does their ideal client need from them. How do you do that with nonprofits? Is that always clear? Are they always clear on who their ideal client is or who their audience is? And how do you help them fine tune that?
In most cases, when the client comes to me, they're usually pretty clear on that side before coming to engage with our company. So it's very rare that I have to help them decipher who their ideal client is. But if I ever do have to do that, then we have an assessment that we can help align that nonprofit with.
Yeah, and I think that would probably be one of the biggest distinctions between for-profit and nonprofit, because a lot of for-profit businesses is like, oh, I'm in it to make some money. I have a great offer. I have a great product. I have a great service, and it's all these great features. And you just go, 90-0 telling everybody about all these great things about your business. And you may not really have a clear idea of who this can actually help. But for a nonprofit, that's the whole reason you go into the organization, is to help a specific client group. So that's a distinction I had never really thought about, but there's some clarity there for nonprofits that sometimes for-profit businesses don't start out with. Yeah. So I know you do a big event every year for nonprofits. Tell me about that and how that got started, and what was the ignition for you that got that going?
The ignition for me to get my event going, and the event's called Collaborate. So each year we do some type of event called Collaborate. And Collaborate is where I try to bring all the nonprofits together I can in the community, and we collaborate together for one evening. This is pretty much my give back to the community and to nonprofits. I saw the need where there was a lot of nonprofits out there that have amazing missions, and they are doing such amazing work, but they just aren't getting the visibility piece that they need. So Collaborate is generally to help the nonprofits gain that visibility piece. Also help them acquire additional donor support and volunteer support. The past 2 years, we did a Collaborate Expo at the VBC. And this year we are doing a Collaborate Gala where we'll be spotlighting significant nonprofits in the community that are doing outstanding works. It's going to be a very wonderful evening, and we're looking forward to it, to be able to give these nonprofits some exposure.
Oh, fun. Another gala to go to. I love galas and I love great causes, so this will be something that I am definitely looking forward to do that. I did not know that you all were doing a gala, so that's exciting. How many nonprofits do you have typically that are participating in your event?
Well, in the expo, in the previous years, we've had at least 60 plus. In the gala event this year, we're going to be spotlighting 8 significant nonprofits in the city.
Awesome. Well, that sounds wonderful. That's we do have a lot of gala events with a lot of great organizations, but that just goes to show that so much good is being done right here in Huntsville, Alabama, that there's room for each of these events to take place, and that we have a community that can support all of these events and all of these amazing nonprofits. So when you started your business and working with nonprofits, I know there are a few people around that work specifically with nonprofits, but what was the catalyst that made you say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to help. This is the service that I want to provide. What was it going on in your entrepreneurial journey or in your story that said, hey, this is what I want to do, and this is where I know I can make an impact?
Well, my career life was taking quite a bit on me, where I was looking at myself and I noticed that I wasn't doing a lot of community work. I wasn't doing enough give back. So I selected a nonprofit here in the community and I said, okay, I'm going to volunteer X amount of times at this nonprofit. And I was very good on the grant writing side. So I picked a particular nonprofit, introduced myself, told them what strength I could bring to their organization. And I offered my volunteer service for 2 hours a day. I said I could come over from 6 in the morning to 8, and let me show you what I can do to help this organization. So 1 year later, $8 million later, I saw the works of my life at that time, and I saw the crucial need that small businesses and nonprofits were in as far as looking for funding and looking for ways to sustain their businesses. So I launched Tish Hardric and Associates and was able to help a tremendous amount of obtain funding, work with them on different types of strategies, and be able to provide all sorts of business resources and consultancy to help sustainability for businesses.
Wow, so that is cool. So $8 million, that's a big number for a year. And so obviously you're good at writing grants and finding grants. And that's a misconception that people have. You don't write grants, you apply for grants. So filling out that paperwork and understanding what to do and how to do, how did you come across that skill set? How did you fine tune that skill set? And what is it about you and your team that is so spot on that you are able to build a business around helping nonprofits find funding?
So the business, it encompasses different areas. Of course, not just grant writing side, but it is a key faucet in the business. And the key to the success piece on this is being able to work with that small business or nonprofit and get them in a fundable situation. So just because you write a grant doesn't mean you're going to get the grant. The key is to research and find grants that align with that particular need. So we generally lead with listening here, and we work very closely to be able to develop an assessment and build a strong background piece that we can walk the client into for successful funding.
I love that. Lead with listening. Oh my gosh, that's three little words that packs a powerful punch. So many people need to follow that premise. That's pretty powerful. Lead with listening. That's one of the things that I really pride myself on being able to do. But so many business owners, that's some of the things that, we get so caught up in what we're doing. We're great at doing this and we're just going, but taking the time to listen. You can get a lot of information. People are usually going to tell you what you need if you just listen. So that is key. I love that. So I know you do lots of other things in your business. You have a wide array of services. And one of the things that I found really, really important is you do trademarks and LLC formation. So how do those two fit within your privy, and what do you do to help businesses get their trademarks and LLC?
So under our formation channel, we do offer support with startup for LLC, nonprofit formations, and also trademark registration. With the LLC formation, we generally will learn from the client what type of business that they're trying to enter. We educate the client before they even walk into that window of the world of LLC on what they're walking into, and we make sure that we're structuring them with the right entity. There's some cases where instead of them being an LLC, they may need to be an S Corp and vice versa. So we're going to really consult with the client to make sure we're lining them in the right channel. As far as the trademark angle with trademarks, generally that is going to be after the client's already been formatted for a little while and they're at a stage in the business where they should consider trademarking. So we do work right hand with the U.S. Patent Office. We serve as the liaison to be able to take the client from the point of what they're trying to trademark to getting it officially trademarked. And that includes logos, slogans, taglines, and anything dealing with their business in that area.
Yeah, that's very important. I have gone through that process myself, and it's very tedious. It is a lot of things that you have to have in place. So I think that's a great combination of what you offer, especially for a nonprofit. If they've got something that's trademarkable or having that business formation, because if I'm correct, I looked into doing some nonprofit, organizing a nonprofit years ago, but you have to set it up as a business and then get it approved to be a nonprofit organization. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. So that's a whole extra layer that you have to get done, and having somebody that specializes in that is really, really good. And then being able to get trademarks, and that's. For me, that was a milestone thing for me, a business bucket list thing, to be able to have something that I could trademark. And it would, it's not just to do it, but being able to have someone that's already on your side working with you that can help you get that trademark done. That's a good thing, because that can be a long process, and you need somebody that is going to be in it for the long haul to hold your hand with that. So who is your dream client? Who is your target audience? What types of clients and businesses do you just love to work with?
I love working with a lot of startups. It's just a big blessing to me to be able to have a client walk in the door and tell me their vision and their dream. We help bring it to reality. Although we service startups, we service individuals that have been in business for years, I'd say the startups are my favorites, just to see them bring that vision to light.
Yeah. And I think you're in a very unique position because a lot of people have a passion for startups, but many service-based organizations can't really afford to work with startups because of the funding issue. But you help businesses find funding. So I think that's a really great combination, that it allows you to be able to work with startups that have a great mission, that have a great purpose, but they just don't have that funding piece, and they land in your arms, in your hands, and you can help redirect that situation so that they are a great business with a great mission, with a great trajectory, and they've got funding to carry out the missions that they're wanting to do. So do you help for-profit and nonprofit businesses find funding, or is it just strictly nonprofit businesses?
Absolutely, Vicki. We help for-profit and nonprofit, and actually we help more for-profit than we do nonprofit.
Wow. So what kind of funding, I would assume there are some grants that are for-profit businesses, but what kinds of funding options are you helping for-profit businesses with?
So there's actually a lot of opportunity for profits that people have no clue is out there. There's a lot of corporations, a lot of foundations that will help nonprofit as well as for-profit. It takes a lot of research to uncover these based on the client's criteria, but we help in the areas of small business, grant opportunities, equipment grant opportunities, minority grant opportunities, woman-owned business opportunities, but just finding ways that we can strategize with that particular client on what's out there for them. And then right now, in the world of COVID, it's finally dwindled away from us. There's a lot of leftover funding and different channels out right now that will help small businesses and nonprofits.
So what is your background? How did you get into this aspect of doing things? Surely you didn't just wake up one day and say, I want to help nonprofits and I've got a boatload of funding options that I can send to people. How did you get started in all of this? My
background is business and media, and my passion was always on the writing side. And I did a lot of work in the past with working under entrepreneurship channels in my background to be able to help in this regard.
Awesome. So what is the most interesting client project that you and your team have worked on?
Most interesting project is a historical church that we helped on a major project. And we were able to help this particular church, and it was not in our state, it was in another state. We were able to help them to gain funding to do a major renovation of the church and help them obtain their preservation funding in their state. Wow. So it was just great to be able to see that whole revamp of that project. And it was a 2-year project. And just to look at their before and after was just amazing. This particular church had no idea of some of the things that they were eligible for and funds that they had sitting right underneath them that would help the growth of that church and the preservation of the church.
I bet that's got to be an amazing feeling when you can uncover some things for a client that they had no idea that they could qualify for. And it's like, this is just sitting here waiting for you. And we just had to do a little digging and, wow, look at the present that we found for you. Yeah. I get that has got to be very rewarding. So when a client works with you, I know you talked about an assessment process. What is the typical time frame that a client starts with you and until they are getting some sustainable funding or just whatever work that they're doing with you? What is that life cycle of a client with you guys?
So the assessment process is not over a 4-week period. So we'll have them ready to go within a 4-week time frame. Typically it's between 2 to 4 weeks. And for grant funding, grantors deadlines vary based on the grant, but typically once we're in the writing stage with that client, we will be able to have some type of feedback from grantors within about a 90 to 100 day window after the deadline date.
Okay. All right. Well, that's moving fairly quickly to get things done. And I know with businesses like yours and with mine, time is of the essence. You need to have things timed out, because you spend too much time in one area, then it's, the return on investment is not as where it needs to be from a business perspective. So that is good to hear. I love that there's a timeline that you guys are working on. So is there anything else about your company, about your vision, about your future that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, we welcome individuals and serious entrepreneurs that are looking for that jump start to check us out at thishteam.com. And we are welcoming anyone who is just looking for consultancy or support in getting their business growing, for the continuous growth of their business. And if your schedule permits, we'd love you to join us at the Collaborate Gala, and tickets can be purchased at collaborate.swell.gibbs.
Oh, okay. All right, then. Well, thank you so much, Tish, for your time today. I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. That's one of the great things about doing this podcast. When I have interviews, I interview people that I think I can learn a little bit from, and that can share some really great insight with our audience. Making people smarter about the things that are available to them is something that I love to do. And one of the reasons I do the podcast is a way to give back. And startups are one of the groups that really, really benefits from the things that we share in the podcast. So thank you for being a part of it today. And I will definitely be checking out that gala and getting my tickets.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Vicki.
All right. Bye. Well, guys, there you go. There's the video version of the Marketing Muscle podcast. Please join me again for another exciting video as we navigate this new aspect of our podcast. I'm excited about it. I hope you are excited about learning all the cool things that my guest and I have